Welcome to Create More Intimacy, a podcast for men. I'm Elisa Stoddard, and I help successful men stop chasing sex and start building real connection so they finally feel close, connected, and wanted again. You are successful, and you know how to build things. You know how to solve problems. You know how to make decisions under pressure and carry responsibility without collapsing. People rely on you. Your team respects you. Your clients trust you. Your boss sees your value. You are not confused about who you are in those environments. And then you go home, and something shifts. There is tension in the room that you can't quite name. Your wife seems distant and irritated, tired of something maybe, and you feel it immediately. Sure, it's subtle, but it definitely impacts you. Instead of feeling confident, it makes you feel off. You don't know exactly what to say. You do not know how to fix it. You do not know how to make it better. So you do what you're good at. You make your life busy. You check email, you review something for tomorrow, you pick up your phone, perhaps you pour a drink. You tell yourself that you're exhausted and deserve to decompress. Others of you stay at work a lot longer after the workday ends. You convince yourself that you're providing. You tell yourself that in this season, work is demanding. You reassure yourself that you're doing what a good man does. Maybe you are. But here's the tension most successful men do not want to look at. You feel more competent at work than you do in your own marriage. You feel more powerful closing deals than navigating hard conversations at home. You feel more certain leading a team than sitting across from the woman you love when she is disappointed. That difference matters. Because marriage doesn't really reward performance, it responds to your presence. And presence is unpredictable. So when things feel uncertain at home, you move towards the place where your efforts equal outcome, which is work. Not because you don't care. It's because you do care. This is not laziness. I want you to hear it for what it is. It's protection. Protecting your identity. Protecting the part of you that learned that your value comes from producing. And the more successful you become, the easier it is to hide inside that success. Because no one questions your productivity. So you keep building, and quietly, distance in your relationship builds too. Welcome to episode 43, Why Successful Men Feel Confident at Work but Insecure at Home. Let's slow this down for a minute. When you walk into that tension at home and you reach for work or your phone or distractions of some sort, something happens in that split second. You feel exposed. The men I talk to, most of them wouldn't choose that word. They'd say they feel irritated or frustrated or tired or unappreciated. But underneath it is something so much quieter. The I don't feel like I'm enough here feeling. Not enough emotionally, not enough connection, not enough desire, not enough appreciation. And when that feeling hits, man, it is sharp. Because at work, your efforts lead to recognition. People notice you're advancing. But at home, effort does not guarantee closeness at all. You can work harder all week and still feel unwanted at home. You can provide protect, show up, and still hear, I don't feel close to you. That lands as rejection. It's not a big dramatic rejection, it's subtle. It's the kind that makes you question yourself in ways that you don't want to admit. Let me tell you about a client. Successful, responsible, driven. He was quite capable. His wife kept saying that she felt disconnected. He genuinely believed he was doing everything right. He was working hard. He was faithful to her. He was providing. He wasn't out partying. He wasn't being reckless. And yet, she kept saying something was missing. Every time she brought it up, he would feel this rush in his chest. He thought it was anger. It wasn't. It was the fear that no matter what he did, it would never be enough. And instead of sitting with that fear, he would go into action. More work, more structure, more planning, more solutions. He tried to fix the relationship the way he fixes everything else. And when that didn't work, he pulled back. Because rejection feels so unbearable when your identity is built around producing and being competent. This is the part that most men miss. Overworking is not about loving your work more than your wife. Overworking is about escaping the feeling of not being enough in the one place you want to matter most. And the deeper that fear runs, the more attractive productivity becomes. Because productivity gives you evidence. There's numbers, there's results, there's proof. Marriage asks for something entirely different. It asks you to sit in the possibility that you are imperfect and still worthy of connection. And that is far more vulnerable than staying busy. Here's what makes this pattern so dangerous. Usually it doesn't explode a marriage. It erodes it quietly. Sure, you are not cheating. You are not raging. You are not walking out the door. You are working and providing and staying responsible. From the outside, things don't look broken. But from her side, something starts to shift. She feels you physically present, but emotionally unavailable. When tension shows up, you move into problem solving or distance. When she brings up the disconnection, you either defend yourself or try to fix things by offering solutions. When she says she misses you, you hear that as criticism. So you try harder in the ways that feel measurable. Perhaps you plan a trip or schedule a date night, or you work towards a promotion, you buy something thoughtful. And those things aren't wrong, but if she is longing for presence and you are offering performance, the gap widens. And over time, she stops bringing things up. Not because they're resolved, they're not. It's because she's tired. She has learned that emotional conversations lead to distance with you. So she adapts and she becomes more self-contained, more independent, less expressive with you. And that is the moment many men wake up. When she stops asking, when she stops reaching, when she stops complaining, because it feels calmer and the calm feels easier than conflict. But calm is not the same as connected. And this is where sexual disconnection often begins. Not as a punishment, not as a way to manipulate, but as a natural response to emotional distance. If she does not feel met emotionally, desire fades. Doesn't happen overnight. It is gradual. And now the original fear gets triggered again. I'm not enough. Except now it feels confirmed. So what do? Well, you work harder. You double down on being useful. You stay strong. You stay productive. You avoid the one conversation that would require you to say, I'm scared that I don't know how to show up here. And the cycle tightens. Here's the truth. Your success is not the problem. Your productivity is not the problem. The problem is using achievement to regulate insecurity instead of facing it. Because insecurity that goes unnamed runs the marriage from the background. And the longer it runs there, the harder it is to undo. Let's circle back to the client that I mentioned earlier, the one who kept trying to fix his relationship the way he fixed everything else. He came to me for coaching, convinced that his wife was the variable. She's distant. She doesn't initiate. She's never satisfied. And he was calm when he said it. He truly believed it. He was measured and logical. But when we slowed the conversation down and I asked him what he felt in his body when she said that she felt disconnected, he stopped. He paused for a long time. And he said, honestly, I feel like I'm failing. That was the first honest sentence. Not angry or defensive. Failing. And right behind that was something even harder to admit. If I can't get this right, what does it say about me? And that's the moment the work begins. Not when a man promises to schedule more date nights. Not when he decides to communicate better. When he admits the tension at home makes him question his worth. Because once he could say that out loud, everything shifted. He stopped arguing about facts. He stopped defending his effort. He started listening differently. And not with the intent to fix, but to understand. And when his wife said, I don't feel close to you, instead of explaining how busy he'd been at work, he tried something new. He said, I think I've been hiding at work because I don't know how to show up when I feel like I'm disappointing you. That sentence changed the trajectory of their marriage. And not because it was romantic or poetic or something super profound. Because it was honest. It was vulnerable without being dramatic. It took ownership without collapsing into shame. That is emotional leadership. And here's what's really important. His work life didn't change. His responsibilities didn't disappear. He didn't become less driven. He became less defensive. He stopped using achievement to shield himself from insecurity. And when that shield dropped, connection had room to grow again. Now, let me give you another example. This is a different client, totally different personality, also successful and responsible. But instead of doubling down on work, he withdrew. He stayed home physically, but emotionally he checked out. He would scroll or watch TV or go into the garage, go quiet. He told himself he was avoiding conflict. In reality, he was avoiding rejection. Every time intimacy felt uncertain, he retreated first so he wouldn't feel turned down. It looked calm on the surface. It was self-protection underneath. When he finally admitted, I pull back because I can't handle feeling unwanted, his wife's entire posture changed. She wasn't fighting a disengaged husband anymore. She was sitting across from a man who trusted her with his fear. That's the difference. Most marriages don't need more effort. Some do, but most don't. What they really need is a lot more honesty. Not about logistics, about insecurity. And that kind of honesty only shows up when a man is willing to look at the fear instead of outrunning it. Let's define something clearly. Emotional leadership is not becoming softer. It is not becoming passive. It is not abandoning your ambition. It is not turning into someone unrecognizable to your loved ones. Emotional leadership is the ability to stay present when you feel exposed. It is staying in the conversation when your instinct is to defend. It is naming fear instead of disguising it as frustration or anger. It is saying, I don't like how this feels, instead of proving why you are right. Most successful men are very good at external leadership. You can cast vision, you can make decisions, you can take responsibility even when something fails at work. But at home, leadership looks different. At home, leadership maybe means going first emotionally, not waiting for her to soften, not waiting for her to initiate, not waiting for her to fix her tone, going first. And this is where fear of rejection shows up the strongest. Because going first means risking not being met the way you hope. It means saying, I miss you, without knowing how she will respond. It means saying, I feel disconnected, without immediately offering a solution, and that feels vulnerable. Especially if your nervous system is wired to protect competence. But here is what I see over and over again. When a man drops performance and brings honesty, his wife relaxes. And I want you to know it's not because he said the perfect words. It's because she feels him. Presence shifts the energy in the room. Performance doesn't. Performance impresses. Presence connects. And connection is what reignites intimacy. Now, here's a really important distinction. Emotional leadership doesn't mean oversharing. It does not mean collapsing into insecurity. It does not mean making her responsible for your emotions. It means that you need to own them. That is strength. That is maturity. And that is attractive. Most men were never modeled this. They were only taught to provide and protect and push through. Very few were taught how to stay. Stay in discomfort, stay in uncertainty, stay in a moment that does not have a clear outcome. And that is the muscle we build in this work. Before you try to change anything, I want you to notice something this week. That's it. Don't fix. And don't overhaul your marriage. Just notice. Notice what happens in your body when things feel off at home. When she sighs or rolls her eyes or turns her back to you, when she seems distant, when she says, we need to talk, when intimacy feels uncertain. What is the first sensation? Tightness in your chest? Heat in your face? A sudden urge to defend? A spike in irritation? Most men label that sensation as anger, but anger is often the second emotion. The first one is vulnerability. The first one is fear. The first one is, I don't know what to do with this. And that feeling is so uncomfortable. So your nervous system reaches for something stabilizing. Work, your phone, productivity, distance, distraction. Not because you're selfish, but because you are regulating yourself the only way you know how. So this week, I'm not really asking you to be better. What I really want you to do is just watch yourself. When you reach for your phone, instead of staying in the room, pause right there and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? When you feel the urge to stay late at work after a tense conversation the night before, then ask, what am I trying not to feel? When you feel defensive, ask, what am I protecting? You might discover something surprising. And it might not be anger. It might be embarrassment. It might be insecurity. It might be the quiet fear that you are not enough in this place that matters so much. If you can learn to identify that emotion, then you've already shifted the pattern. Because you can't change what you cannot see. And most successful men are experts in managing outcomes. They are not trained at identifying internal states. That skill changes everything. Listen, if you recognized yourself in this episode, I want you to hear something really clearly. There is nothing wrong with your ambition. There is nothing wrong with your drive, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with your desire to succeed. The issue is not in your success. The issue is with the fear underneath that's running everything quietly in the background. When fear of not being enough drives your behavior, your marriage feels unstable. When you learn to face that fear instead of trying to outrun it, everything shifts. You become calmer, more grounded, less reactive, more connected, and intimacy has a chance in that state. And it's not because you forced it, it's because she felt safe with you. This is the work that I do with men every single week. I'm not teaching them to be less strong. I am teaching them to be strong in a different way, strong enough to stay present, strong enough to admit insecurity without collapsing into it, strong enough to lead emotionally instead of hiding behind productivity. If you recognize yourself here in this episode, don't ignore this. These patterns don't disappear with time. They deepen. And this is the work that I do with men. Book a call with me. On a call, we will look at your specific patterns, where you defend, where you protect, and what emotional leadership would look like in your life. You don't have to work less. You don't have to become someone else. You just have to stop letting fear run the show. You've already proven you can build success. What isn't certain at this moment is your ability to build connection. See you next time. Thanks for being here. If something in this episode hit home, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more men find the support they need. And if you are ready to get help or take the next step, you'll find the link to book a free call in the show notes. I'll see you next time.